everyone.
This is Kimberly Kutumura.
And I'm Shala Hanuhan.
And I'm Grace Aldean.
We are here to discuss about the story which is entitled Walden, or Life in the Woods, Where I Live and What I Live For, by
Henry David Thoreau.
Thoreau was born on July 12, 1817. He was an American naturalist, essayist, poet, and philosopher, a leading transcendentalist. He is best known for his book, Walden, a reflection upon simple living in natural surroundings. Thoreau's books, articles, essay, journals, and poetry amount to more than 20 volumes. Among his lasting contributions are his writings on natural history and philosophy, in which he anticipated the methods and findings of ecology and environmental history. Two sources of modern-day environmentalism, his literary style interweaves close observation of natural, personal experience, pointed rhetoric, symbolic meanings, and historical lore.
Thoreau was a lifelong abolitionist, delivering lectures that attacked the fugitive slave law while praising the writings of Wendell Phillips and defending the abolitionist John Brown. Thoreau's philosophy of civil disobedience later influenced the political thoughts and actions of such notable figures as Leo Tolstoy, Mahatma Gandhi, and Martin Luther King Jr.
Thoreau is sometimes referred to as an anarchist and civil disobedient. Thoreau wrote, "I heartily accept the motto that government is best which governs least, and I should like to see it acted up to more rapidly and systematically carried out. It finally amounts to this, which also I believe, that government is best which governs not at all. And when men are prepared for it, that will be the kind of government which they will have. I ask for, not at once no government, but at once a better government."
Summary of the story.
Thoreau recalls the several places where he nearly settled before selecting Walden Pound, all of them estates on a rather large scale. He quotes the Roman philosopher Cato's warning that it is best to consider buying a farm very carefully before signing the papers. He had been interested in the nearby Hollowell farm, despite the many improvements that needed to be made there. But before a deed could be drawn, the owner's wife unexpectedly decided she wanted to keep the farm. Consequently, Thoreau gave up his claim on the property, even though he had been prepared to farm a large tract. Thoreau realizes that this outcome may have been for the best. Forced to simplify his life, he concludes that it is best, as long as possible, to live free and uncommitted. Thoreau takes to the woods dreaming of an existence free of obligation and full of leisure. He proudly announces that he resides far from the post office and all the constraining social relationship. The mail system represents, ironically, this renunciation of legal deeds provides him with the ownership, paraphrasing a point to the effect that "I am monarch of all I survey."
Thoreau's delight in his new building project at Walden is more than merely the pride of a first-time homeowner. It is a grand philosophic achievement in his mind, a symbol of his conquest of being. When Thoreau first moved into his dwelling on Independence Day, it gives him a proud sense of being a god on Olympus. Even though the house still lacks a chimney and plastering, he claims that a paradise fit for gods is available everywhere. He declares that the poorly insulated walls give his interior the benefit of fresh air and on summer nights. He justifies its lack of curbs ornament by declaring that it is better to carve the very atmosphere one thinks and feels in it an artistry of the soul. It is for him an almost immaterial heavenly house. As far off as many a region viewed nightly by astronomers, he prefers to reside here, sitting on his own humble wooden chair, that in some distant corner on the universe, behind the constellation of Cassiopeia's chair. He is free from times as well as from matter, announcing grandiosely that time is a river in which he goes fishing. He does not view himself as the slave of time. Rather, he makes it seem as though he is choosing to participate in the flow of time, whenever and however he chooses, like a God living an eternity. He concludes on a sermonizing note, urging all of us to sludge through our existence until we hit rock bottom and can gauge truth on what he terms our realometer, our means of measuring the reality of things. The analysis of the story.
The title of this chapter combines a practical topic of residence, where I live, with what is probably the deepest philosophical topic of all, the meaning of life, what I live for. Thoreau thus reminds us again that he is neither practical, do-it-yourself aficionado nor erudite philosopher, but a mixture of both at once, attending to matters of everyday existence and to questions of final meaning and purpose. This chapter pulls away from the bookkeeping list and details about expenditures on nails and door hinge and open up onto the more transcending vista of how it all matters, containing lest how to advise and much more philosophical meditation and grandiose universalizing assertion. It is here that we see the full influence of Ralph Waldo Emerson on Thoreau's project. Emersonian self-reliance is not just a matter of supporting oneself financially, as many people believe, but as much loftier doctrine about the active role that every soul plays in its experience of reality. Reality of immersion was not a set of objectives, facts, in which we are plunked down, but rather an emanation of our minds and souls that create the world around ourselves every day. Thoreau's building of a house on Walden Pond is, for him, a miniature reenactment of God's creation of the world. He describes its placement in the cosmos in a region viewed by the astronomers, just as God created a world within the void of space. He says outright that he resides in his home as if on Mount Olympus, home of the gods. He claims a divine freedom from the flow of time, describing himself as fishing in its river. Thoreau's point in all this divine talk is not to inflate his own personality to godlike heights, but rather to insist on everyone's divine ability to create a world. Our capacity to choose reality is evident in his metaphor of the realometer, a spin-off of the nilometer, a device used to measure the depth of the river Nile. Thoreau urged us to wade through the muck that constitutes our everyday lives until we come to a firm place which we can call reality and say this is the stamp of existence we give to our vision of reality. This is evokes God's simple language in the creation story of Genesis, let there be, and the mere fact that Thoreau imagines that one can choose to call one thing reality and another thing not provides the spirit freedom that was central to Emerson's transcendentalist thought. When we create and claim this reality, all the other news of the world shrinks immediately to insignificance. As Thoreau illustrates in his mocking parody of newspapers reporting a car run over the Western Railway, he opines that the last important bit of news to come out of England was about the Revolution of 1649, almost 2 centuries earlier. The only current events that matter to the transcending mind are itself and its place in the cosmos.
Setting of the story. Walden chronicles the 2 years Thoreau spent at Walden Pound, a rural area located just outside of Concord, Massachusetts. Thoreau was only at Walden Pound for 2 years, from 1845 to 1847, but the book went through extensive revisions before it was finally published in 1854. Theme of the story. The central idea of the chapter, Where I Lived and What I Lived For, in Walden, is that one gets closer to a truly vital and awakened life by living simple. In this chapter, Thoreau discusses the reasons for which he decided to live in a cabin by Walden Pound and his hopes for what said experience might teach him.
Our report is about the story of Henry David Thoreau, titled His literary style interweaves close. Ay, nauso na na! His literary style interweaves. It is here that we see the full influence of Ralph Waldo Immersion on Thoreau's project. Immersionian self-reliance. Nabuking na agaw kung mas